It's Tuesday, September 2nd, 2025. Good evening and welcome to the daily happenings inside our federal machine. Hope y'all had a fantastic Labor Day weekend. This is Spathon and it's time to plunge into the swamp. Tren De Aragua narco-terrorists who were transporting drugs in the Caribbean Sea were completely blown out of the water by the U.S. military today, and we have the video. The mayor of Washington, D.C., Mariel Bowser, stated she welcomes federal law enforcement presence in her city indefinitely. President Trump announced today that the U.S. Space Command headquarters will be relocated to Huntsville, Alabama, adding 30,000 jobs to the local area and billions of dollars in investments. As of today, President Trump has not had a single civilian nominee confirmed by voice vote or unanimous consent in the Senate. Republican Majority Leader John Thune speaks on this and speaks about what needs to be done if Democrats won't play ball. And also, Representative Ilhan Omar's net worth has ballooned 66,676% since she was elected in Congress in 2019. Her May 2025 financial disclosures puts her net worth at $30 million. And also, 58 people were shot in the city of Chicago over Labor Day weekend, while the mayor of Chicago and the Illinois governor continue insisting that federal law enforcement intervention in the Windy City is completely unnecessary. And a lot more happened today, so we're just going to dive right in. And if you enjoyed the video, please give it a like and subscribe to the channel if you have a chance, all that good stuff. And I might just read your comment on the next episode if you decide to drop one. And by the way, everything I share in the video, it was all posted no more than 24 hours ago. Most of these posts and articles actually were just posted in the last 12 hours, if not even shorter than that. Except for this very first one. This one was almost 24 hours ago, but I figured I would lead with this given the situation that unfolded well after this post was made. So this is from Rep. Carlos A. Jimenez. God bless America. Our troops just off the coast of Venezuela. And I'm just doing a, let's see. I think I got the volume worked out. All right. Let's just jump right into this. Here we go, man. Let's go. Fuck yeah, America! Fuck yeah! Uh-oh, that's loud. Oh, I love the sound of copyright to start the show. Fuck yeah! That's America in the Caribbean Sea. The B-2. What is that, the Stratofortress? That what is that, B-52, I think? That one, maybe? I know that one. I've seen that one. B-2. Damn, that's a badass plane, too. Is that maybe a Raptor F-35, maybe? I don't know, man. I don't know my planes too well. Correct me in the comments. Make me look stupid. That's an aircraft carrier, man. Nuclear powered. You can sit out there in the ocean for over 30 years and not ever need an electrical recharge. All right, all right, all right. All right, enough fun with that. That was way early this morning when that video was shared. So actually, not even this morning. It was actually shared last night at 9:22 p.m. So if you're keeping up on current events, there was something quite significant that happened in the Caribbean Sea today, which is what my title is for this video and what I led with in the intro. So this is from OSINT Defender. The U.S. Navy carried out a lethal strike earlier today against a vessel being operated by a designated narco-terrorist organization in the Southern Caribbean Sea, which had recently departed from Venezuela, according to the Secretary of State and National Security Advisor, Marco Rubio. And then we're going to move on to the next one. We're going to get a couple of video clips to check out here in a moment. From Rep. Wesley Hunt press office, President Trump increases the crackdown on the cartels. Trump announces U.S. military strike on Venezuelan drug boat. Stopping the flow of illegal drugs into this country is a top priority for the current administration. Promises kept. Let's give this a watch.
Over the last few minutes, literally shot out a boat, a drug-carrying boat, a lot of drugs in that boat.
Not anymore.
And you'll be seeing that, and you'll be reading about that. It just happened moments ago, and
yeah,
our great general, head of the Joint Chiefs of Staff, who's been so
about 4 o'clock
incredible, including what took place in Iran, knocking out potential nuclear power for a long time to come. I think within a month they would have had it if we didn't do what we did. But he gave us a little bit of a briefing, and you'll see. And there's more where that came from. We have a lot of drugs pouring into our country, coming in for a long time.
Yeah, we do.
And we just, these came out of Venezuela and coming out very heavily from Venezuela. A lot of things are coming out of Venezuela.
Yeah, a lot of things are. Communism, for one, fascism, drugs, all kinds of crazy shit. A lot of criminals that were emptied out of the prison system in Venezuela and sent up here a few years ago, which we're rounding up as we speak. Thank God for the federal agents that are out there doing that. I couldn't do what they do. It's unbelievable the rash of shit that they have to take, not only from the criminal illegals, but also from the Democrats and all the idiots that are on the ground, completely brainwashed, have no idea what the fuck they're doing. So anyway, we've got this from Donald J. Trump's Truth social account, posted by Secretary of Defense Pete Hegseth just an hour ago, man. So this shit's recent. September 2nd, 5:28 p.m. Earlier this morning, on my orders, U.S. military forces conducted a kinetic strike against positively identified Tren De Aragua narco-terrorists in the Southcom area of responsibility. TDA is a designated foreign terrorist organization operating under the control of Nicolas Maduro, responsible for mass murder, drug trafficking, sex trafficking, and acts of violence and terror across the United States and Western Hemisphere. The strike occurred while the terrorists were at sea in international waters transporting illegal narcotics heading to the United States. The strike resulted in 11 terrorists killed in action. No U.S. forces were harmed in this strike. Please let this serve as notice to anybody even thinking about bringing drugs into the United States of America. Beware. Where are we? Where are we? All right, way down here at the bottom. Beware, and thank you for your attention to this matter. I had to include that. We always got to include it. Thank you for your attention to this matter, because that's how you know it's from the president. That's how you know it's from Trump. And this comes from the White House an hour ago. On video, the U.S. military forces conducted a strike against Tren De Aragua narco-terrorists. The strike occurred while the terrorists were at sea in international waters transporting illegal narcotics heading to the U.S. The strike resulted in 11 terrorists killed in action. Dude, they got a hold of this video fast, man. I mean, it's the military. It's the government. Of course they get the video. I'm sure that Trump was watching this in real time. It's just, what I really meant was, it's nice that they gave it to the public so freaking quick, man. For this to have only occurred, as I speak, only a couple hours ago, man. It's not even 7:30 p.m. my time, Florida time, Eastern time. And let's give this a check out. I have another one from Marco Rubio. It's shorter, so I figured we'd play the longer version. So let me see. Yeah, see, what sucks about X is that I have to play it before I can size it up. But whatever. All right, here we go. I don't think there's sound. No, there's no sound. Nope, no sound. 11 terrorists right there. Got to kill them evildoers, as George W. might put it. All right, so they're going to zoom out. Here we go. Here comes the splash. Boom! Fuck you! And that, ladies and gentlemen, is that as the boat sinks below the waves. And there you have it. Taken out by the U.S. military in the Southcom area of responsibility from Marco Rubio. And we also have his response, or he responded to Rapid Response 47. We just, over the last few minutes, shot out a drug-carrying boat, and there's more where that came from. These came out of Venezuela. I'm assuming this is the exact same video that we just watched from President Trump here. It looks like the same people are standing next to him, this dude, so... I suppose I could play it, or at least start to play it. Maybe we got a little bit of extra info in
when
this.
you come out and when you leave the room, you'll see that we just, over the last few minutes, literally shot out a boat, a drug-carrying boat, a lot of drugs in that.
Okay, yeah, we got it. We got the gist of it. Fuck around, find out, man. Winning. Fucking A. Let's fucking go. Thank you, Mr. President. For everyone wondering, this is what Secretary Rubio was talking about in his cryptic post. Ah. Really? He had a cryptic post earlier today, huh? Well, let's see, shall we? So 50 minutes ago, an hour ago, 6 hours ago. No, that's not going to be it. September 1st. He said earlier today, right? Polish government. Hold on, let's see. No, that has to do with Polish government. President's going to be on offense against drug cartels. Secretary of State Marco Rubio says cartels are in for a rude awakening after the U.S. military destroyed a drug-laden boat from Venezuela. Let's see what he had to say about it.
The president is going to be on offense against drug cartels and drug trafficking in the United States. It destabilizes not just the country, but the entire Caribbean basin. These particular drugs were probably headed to Trinidad or some other country in the Caribbean, at which point
okay, so this is after the fact.
To the instability these countries are facing. So the president's been very clear that he's going to use the full power of America, the full might of the United States, to take on and eradicate these drug cartels.
You know, that's actually a good point that he brings up. We don't know 100% for certainty that they were actually bound for the United States. It looked like they were on, what, a dinghy or something. It didn't look like they were on a boat that was capable of traveling from Venezuela, which is in northern South America, all the way up to the United States. So they very well could have been going somewhere else, like maybe Aruba. Aruba's fairly close to Venezuela, I think, or maybe one of the Lesser Antilles Islands, which is really far from Venezuela. But they could have just been traveling to another Caribbean country, and we basically did that country a favor. We blew them out of the water, so now drugs aren't going to pour into another nation somewhere in the Caribbean.
No matter where they're operating from, and no matter how long they've been able to act with impunity, those days
These
are
people
over.
with their phones. That's hilarious. Back in the day, they all had microphones with their news company's logo on it, and now they've all got a bunch of smartphones pointing at them. So I'm assuming that might have been the cryptic post. On my way to Mexico City, and I mean, this was after the fact. Illegal immigration and countering transnational crime and terrorism in our region. There was that one 6 hours ago. I mean, this isn't talking about drugs at all. This was yesterday. So that's a happy Labor Day post. Okay, hold on. This was back on August 29th, and he didn't post it. He reposted it. We're honored to host Secretary Rubio at the Southcom headquarters, which was the area of responsibility where this drug boat was blown out of the water. Secretary Rubio met with Southcom Commander Admiral Alvin Holsley and command leaders to discuss security in Latin America and the Caribbean and U.S. priorities in our region. Okay, well, that's all I'll dig into as far as Marco Rubio goes, and then we're just going to move on to the next post here. We're going to move on and shift gears to Ilhan Omar. Check this out from the New York Post. Rep. Ilhan Omar's net worth skyrockets to as much as $30 million months after denying she was a millionaire. Well, go figure. So she did her financial filings in May of 2025, so just a couple of months ago. And this is what her financials indicate, that she has upwards of $30 million. Apparently, she invested $1,000 into some startup investment company or some shit. And she just dropped $1,000 into them last year. And apparently, like, it's given her like a 3,500% return or some insane bullshit. So anyway, Rep. Ilhan Omar reported a net worth of up to $30 million in her latest financial disclosure, a document filed just months after the Congresswoman dismissed claims she was a millionaire as ridiculous and categorically false. The disclosure filed in May shows the far-left squad lawmaker and her husband, Tim Minette, is that her brother? I don't know, experienced a roughly 3,500% increase in net worth last year compared to 2023. All right, get out of here. So the surge in the couple's wealth was first reported. What the fuck? All right, I don't know why it's doing that. All right, here we go. The surge in the couple's wealth was first reported by the Washington Free Beacon on Monday. The financial gains came from Minette's two businesses, a Santa Rosa, California-based winery. Okay, where did he get the money to buy a fucking winery? I don't think those are cheap in California. And a venture capital firm headquartered in Washington, D.C. Wow, go figure. I wonder what he does for a living. Is he a lobbyist? Has he lived in D.C. his entire life? Is he a foreigner? Like what the fuck's up with this dude? I don't even know. I don't even know her husband. Last I heard, she was married to her brother. So, I guess I don't know everything. Omar valued the winery's assets at between $1 and $5 million in her latest disclosure. By comparison, the winery ESTCRU LLC was only worth between $15,000 and $50,000 in Omar's previous financial disclosure. Now, how the fuck did it increase that much? Maybe the winery had no crop or no grapes, no vines or anything, which I find that kind of hard to believe. I doubt that you can grow an entire vineyard inside 1 year. So let's see. More dramatic was the explosion in growth experienced by Minette's venture capital firm, Rose Lake Capital LLC. Rose Lake Capital's assets were valued at between $5 and $25 million by the end of 2024. The company had less than $1 million in assets the previous, or less than 1,000. I misread that. The company had less than $1,000 in assets the previous year. So that's what I read earlier. Notably, income from the venture capital firm is listed as none in 2024, but between $15,000 and $50,000 the previous year. Very interesting. Rose Lake Capital claims to have $60 billion in assets under management. Who the hell is going to invest $60 billion in a company that just started within the last 2 years? That doesn't make any sense at all. According to the company's website, the company touts its deep global networks built from on-the-ground work in more than 80 countries, working across business, politics, banking, and diplomacy. Dude, this sounds like such horseshit. What would that be? A shell company or something? I don't know. Money laundering, maybe. Let's see. It offers clients expertise in several facets of business, including structuring legislation. That sounds like political favors. Sounds like quid pro quo to me. The Congresswoman cried disinformation in February when asked about online speculation that she was a secret millionaire. Quote, since getting elected, there has been a coordinated right-wing disinformation campaign claiming all sorts of wild things, including the ridiculous claim I am worth millions of dollars, which is categorically false, Omar told Business Insider. I am a working mom with student loan debt. Oh my God, these people are so fucking evil. Unlike some of my colleagues and similar to most Americans, I'm not a millionaire and I'm raising a family while maintaining a residence in both Minneapolis and DC. So she's going to say, well, I'm not a millionaire. My husband is, because that's what Nancy Pelosi says. I didn't make $400 million. No, that's my husband's thing. I don't know anything. I'm just a poor, lowly, ignorant little woman. I don't know what goes on with my husband's affairs. I'm not the millionaire. He's the millionaire. No, dude, y'all share shit. You're fucking married, dude. That's what marriage is. You and him are joined together as one. You're one flesh under God now, which means that all your financial bullshit is both of y'all's. It ain't just his, it's yours too. So maybe, I mean, I'll say if he gets criminally charged down the road, but it sounds to me it's probably going to be more likely when, not if, but let's say if he's criminally charged down the road for doing whatever the hell he's doing, embezzling or fraud or racketeering or whatever the fuck he might be engaged with, yeah, you're going to be in trouble as well because you are his wife and you're both going to be culpable. Not to say that what they're doing is illegal. I just find it kind of shocking that he found somebody or a rash of entities out there in 60 different countries who are willing to do $60 billion worth of business with this dude when he's only got his company in existence for 2 years. That's got to be a record, man. He's got to be in the Guinness Book of World Records for being able to manage that amount of money in that short of an amount of time. It's just, I don't know, man. It's just peculiar to me. That's all. So, which are among the most expensive housing markets in the country? Let's see. The disclosure does list as much as $100,000 in credit card and student loan debt owed by Omar. Yeah, I know, but that's just to keep up appearances. That's why. And yeah, I mean, with that amount of credit, well, I guess if you're paying it on time, I mean, nobody's going to come after you if you're making the minimum payments or whatever. But that's all it is. It's just keeping up on political appearances. That way she can posture and say, no, I'm just like you. I have $100,000 in credit card and student loan debt, so I'm just the same as you are. That's the fucking bullshit, retarded, brain dead game that they play. She also has between $1,000 and $15,000 in her Congressional Credit Union savings account and another $15,000 to $50,000 in a retirement fund from her time in the Minnesota State Legislature. Omar's office did not immediately respond to the Post request for... Yeah, they're not going to, dude. They're not going to. No, the only thing they're going to say is, well, she told us she has $100,000 in credit card debt, so how could she be a millionaire? That doesn't make any sense now, does it? All right, so let's move on to Libs of TikTok. Ilhan Omar's net worth increased by 3,500% since 2023. That's not exactly true. It's her husband's company. Well, actually, like I said, what's his wealth is her wealth. They're married. And when they're married, they both share the wealth as far as the law is concerned. So even though the New York Post said it was his net worth that increased by $3,500 since 2023, it's technically hers too. So Libs of TikTok's not exactly wrong. I mean... It's just omitting certain details, but yeah, whatever. So her salary is only $174,000, but her net worth is $30 million. How? I don't know, but I'm assuming there's going to be some investigations into that. Like I said, I don't know who her husband is. Like, should we look that up while we're on the subject? Maybe I'll just look this up real quick. I'm just gonna ask. I'm going to ask Grok. Actually, no. First, I'm gonna ask Google. Let me do this first. Hold on. Let's get rid of that, and let me just open up a new tab down here. See, usually I'm prepared with this, but I forgot. All right, so let's do Google, and let's do. Uh-oh, that's not coming up right. Yeah, whatever. Google gets it. Let's take a look here. 2018, 20. Oh, here we go. Tim Minette. All right. I suppose New York Post did say that, didn't it? Tim Minette. So, meet her husband. South China Morning Post. Why the hell are they writing about that? That's kind of weird, but. Rep Ilhan Omar's husband accused of swindling investor. Really? And this is a whole nother can of worms to get into. Accused of swindling investor in their California winery. His business partner, Will Haler, denied defrauding the investor, while another company they started owes $1.2 million to cannabis growers in South Dakota. That's hilarious. All right, so let's see. Yeah, a lot of this is just going to be within the last 24 hours. Disclosed at 30 million. All right. So I'm going to try this. I'm trying to think, how should I word this? Tim. Is it 2 T's? Am I? Yeah. I'm just curious to see what he's got a background in. He's an American political consultant, fundraiser, and entrepreneur with over 15 years of experience in progressive campaigns. So that's how they met, of course. He graduated from the State University of New York at Albany. Dude, this has corruption written all the fuck over it, man. How does it not? And has worked as a foundation manager at the Alliance for Justice, an associate at the Ashmead Group, senior director at New Partners Consulting, and principal at E Street Group, where he's co-founded the firm and helped raise more than $100 million for candidates and organizations like Angelina Jolie's Global Action for Children. He later co-founded Rose Lake Capital, a venture capital firm, and has been involved in business ventures, including a California winery and cannabis investments. He's also married. The firm received significant payments from her campaign prior to their 2020 marriage. What? Wait a minute. His firm received significant payments from her campaign prior to their 2020 marriage. That doesn't sound legal. I don't know, man. It stinks. It doesn't. It sounds very shady. He's got experience in progressive campaigns, so he's like extremely politically on the left. He's probably a fucking communist, and God knows what the hell else. So, all right. So let's move on to the next thing. Here, let me get this minimized down there in case I might need it again. Ilhan Omar's net worth. 2020 negative 65,000. 2021 65,000. 22 115. The next year 205,000. 2024 $30 million. How do you like that? What a scam. Not a scam, dude. It screams of fraud, corruption, God knows what else. Rep Ilhan Omar from In Wokeness, 2019 net worth, negative 45, 2025, 30 million. Congressional salary, 174K. Really makes you think. And this one from Laura Logan, and that, ladies and gentlemen, is how puppets are made. And she's responding to Mike Benz. Ilhan Omar, on a $174,000 salary, increased her net worth $24 million in a single year because of a shady venture capital firm she invested in that had less than 1,000 in assets, ballooning up to 25 million in 1 year. And that is in response to John Solomon. Ilhan Omar's financial disclosure shows a 1 year 3,500% increase in net worth. So we're already aware of that. And moving on to Nancy Pelosi's stock tracker. Breaking: who said politicians don't get rich? Ilhan Omar just reported that her net worth is now up to $30 million. That's a 66,676% increase since she was first elected to Congress back in 2019. Honestly, I would argue that it must be infinite, right? Because didn't she have a negative net worth? Wasn't she worth like negative 60? What was it? I mean, In Wokeness says 45, but C3 said negative 65K. So, I mean, that would like technically be an infinite percentage increase because she had no money before. I don't know, whatever. Math ain't my strongest subject. So this is the financial disclosure report. Filer information, Ilhan Omar, member, Minnesota 5th District, annual report. Assets and unearned income, and Congressional Credit Union savings account, and then ESTCRU LLC, and Rose Lake Capital LLC. There's the $25 million. I know it's really small to read. I'm doing the best I can. Stupid X done. Let me zoom in. Let's see. Ameriprise Retirement, $15,000. Ameriprise Retirement IRA, $15,000. Minnesota State Retirement System, $50,000. Of course, those are tax deferred, the retirement accounts. Partnership income from Rose Lake Capital. So basically, it's our spouse. And so is the ESTCRU LLC, the spouse again, and so on. So, yeah, I don't know. I'm telling you, once they respond, whether if it's her or her handlers, once they respond to this big blow up, because this is going crazy viral right now. I mean, obviously it is, because this is sensational news for just some lowly Democrat politician who wasn't even born here, is born in fucking Somalia, and keeps insisting she's not a millionaire. All of a sudden we find out she's worth up to $30 million. So, I mean, when they come out, they're just going to stick to that. They're going to say, well, I didn't earn any of that. I'm just only making $175,000 a year, and it's my husband making all that money. Which, by the way, why do you have $100,000 in credit card and student loan debt when you're making almost $200,000 a year? And you know she ain't working that hard. Just, I don't know. Just curious. So let's move on to the next topic. We're just going to move on to Speaker Mike Johnson. Either Democrats rigged the system to give billionaires to illegal aliens or non-citizens and fraudulent enrollees, or they didn't care it was happening. Either way, it's terrible for the American people, and the result is 2.3 million improper enrollments and $185 billion in waste and abuse. Republicans' One Big Beautiful Bill ends the fraud, reduces premiums, and ensures benefits go only to deserving American citizens. And he shared a link from waysandmeans.house.gov. CBO, Democrats covered up widespread fraud and abuse in federal health programs. Well, I mean, if they're covering that up and you can prove that they are, then sounds like there should be investigations and maybe some indictments handed down, because I'm sure that's not legal, right? I mean, it can't be legal if they're covering shit up. This just goes to show that Democrats, they don't care about the everyday voter. They don't care about you. They only care about power. That's it. They're narcissists, they're psychopaths, and they want power. Now, to be fair, a lot of Republicans, I'm sure, fit in that camp too. A lot of them are power-hungry psychopaths as well. And, you know, I'm not going to argue that. Anyway, from D.C., recent analysis by the Congressional Budget Office confirms that Democrats conducted a years-long massive cover-up to defraud American taxpayers in order to subsidize fraud, waste, and abuse in federal health programs, including using loopholes to provide free health care to illegal immigrants. Republicans put an end to these generous, unjustified subsidies and instead lowered premiums for those properly enrolled in the program and provided a massive tax cut to the middle class in the One Big Beautiful Bill signed into law on July 4th. Lawmakers requested CBO provide critical context behind their top-line coverage estimates resulting from the health reforms in the One Big Beautiful Bill. CBO's latest analysis makes clear that the One Big Beautiful Bill has or is not taking coverage away from hardworking Americans, but is ending billions in subsidies for illegal immigrants, which we know this. And not only that, but they're also getting rid of a lot of fraud, a lot of people who are getting like double benefits or something like that, or there's like entities that are billing for services that may or may not have actually occurred. So there's, a lot of fraud. And restoring integrity to healthcare programs, CBO estimates that the policies in the new law dealing with health insurance marketplace premium tax credit eligibility would reduce those who should not be getting taxpayer subsidies by 2.1 million in 2034. Additionally, CBO confirms Republicans' concerns with massive improper enrollment in Obamacare. The agency not only finds that Democrat policies have led to at least 2.3 million fraudulent enrollees in Obamacare, but also that common sense Republican program integrity reforms in the One Big Beautiful Bill will lower premiums for those truly eligible for the program while putting an end to these abuses. So, all right, so I'll just read this last little bit here. So the request was made by the chairman of the House Committees on Ways and Means, Budget, and Energy and Commerce, Jason Smith, Jody Arrington, Brett Guthrie, and let's see, they made the following joint statement. CBO found Democrats' policies to be responsible for massive waste, fraud, and abuse in federal health programs, even forcing taxpayers to pay for the health care of illegal immigrants, including some of the worst criminal offenders. Thanks to the One Big Beautiful Bill, Republicans are protecting taxpayers and delivering pro-growth tax cuts for Americans. In fact, CBO confirmed that because of our reforms, premiums will go down for Obamacare enrollees. It's no surprise Democrats failed to hold government bureaucrats accountable and continue to side with illegal immigrants. Of course they do. As many as 1.2 illegal immigrants eligible for the healthcare, Obamacare subsidies. 700,000 who refused to comply with common sense income. 400,000 individuals abusing Biden-era special enrollment period. And it goes on and on. 2.3 million Obamacare enrollees in 2025 improperly claimed premium tax credits. Lovely. So yeah, there's a bunch of other information in this article. I'm going to link this below if you want to check it out. It starts with ways and means, so just look for that because I don't go into detail with listing all of the links below in the description. I just simply copy paste from all these tabs, and yeah, because you know these videos, they get an hour and a half to 2 hours long, and I have a day job, so you know I've only got so much time, so I can't put it together too well. Maybe one day. If this channel does well enough, then maybe I'll structure my links a little better. But until then, it's down there. So just look for ways and means. It'll be down there. So moving on to Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent. Tariffs are delivering historic results for the American people. Even the mainstream media is starting to admit it. I've said total tariff revenue could reach $300 billion this year, but it could be much higher. Even $300 billion adds 1% to the GDP. With tariffs alone, growth could hit 5%. Holy shit. Let's see. Oh, fuck, man. That was loud. All right, hold on. Why the hell was that so damn loud, man? For real? My bad. I hope I didn't blow out any eardrums. I don't know why the fuck that was so damn loud. All right, let's give this a try.
You're starting to see in the mainstream
Good
media,
Lord, Scott Bessent. Fuck Fox News. Damn, dude.
That
fucking ridiculous.
Even the other side or the super, free
That's Fox
market,
News' fault.
People are getting addicted to tariff income. I've been saying $300 billion.
Let's go, man.
It could be much higher.
Let's get addicted.
$300 billion is 1% of GDP. We got left with a mess in terms of the deficit to GDP, the highest ever when we weren't in a recession, weren't at war. So just with the tariff income, we're going to be in the fives, which is incredible.
Very nice.
Like that's like running a marathon and starting 5 miles before everybody else.
All right, whatever. We don't need the analogies or anything, but still, that's pretty good news, man. That's really good. Yeah, debt to GDP under Biden. Well, dude, Biden wasn't even, we all know that. He wasn't in charge. He wasn't doing shit. Didn't know what year it was. Didn't know where he was half the time. He had to have the reporters' pictures next to the questions they were asking him. It was so prepped and staged and orchestrated every time that he gave a press conference or a press briefing or even talked to the press, which was practically never. I bet you could probably count on one hand. You know what? I'll give him 2 hands because he was president for 4 years. I bet you could count within 2 hands worth of your fingers that he gave or he actually talked to the press or even took questions from the press. And I bet not a single time was it unprepared, where he just walked up to the press without any preparation and just took questions. You know, kind of like what Trump does practically on a daily basis. And he did that during his first term, too. From Leader John Thune, as of today, POTUS has not had a single one of his civilian nominees confirmed by unanimous consent or voice vote. If Democrats continue to drag out the confirmation of every single one of the nominations of a duly elected president, then we are going to have to take steps to get this process back on a reasonable footing. Yeah, not only was he duly elected, but he got the popular majorities. So the majority of Americans want these people nominated. So it's kind of a long video. I don't think I'm going to get through the whole thing. I'll probably just play a few minutes of it just to, I'm assuming in the first couple of minutes of his speech, he's going to get the gist of where he's getting at as far as what they plan on doing if they don't confirm any more of his civilian nominees. But we'll check it out. Let's see where it goes.
Mr. President, it's been a very busy year here in the United States Senate. From confirming President Trump's nominees to repealing burdensome Biden administration regulations to passing the One Big Beautiful Bill to prevent a massive tax hike on hardworking Americans, Republicans have been hard at work delivering on the mandate we received from the American people.
Screen it. There you go.
The Senate has taken so far 499 votes this year, more than in any Congress at this point in the last 35 plus years. In fact, we've taken more votes in 2025 already in 8 months than the Senate has taken in a full 12 months for most.
Damn,
all
no
but
shit.
2 of the past 36 years.
Wow.
But we have a lot more work to do.
Thank Chuck Schumer.
And we're going to get it done.
Chuck Schumer.
That starts this week with consideration
Cooking
of the
his
National
cheeseburgers.
Defense Authorization Act, one of the most important pieces of legislation that we consider every year. That will be followed by continued appropriations work so that we can get the government funded by the September 30th deadline. We've already done some good work on appropriations. In fact, for the first time in years, we went into August having passed 3 of the 12 appropriations bills. The last time that happened, a single appropriations bill passed before the August break was 2017. But needless to say, there's a lot more to do. And I hope, Mr. President, that our Democrat colleagues will resist the calls from within for a shutdown and work with us to fund the government.
Oh, you know they're going to try to
Mr.
shut it
President,
down.
along with the National Defense
100% they're gonna try
Authorization
that.
Act and funding the government, we have another important task to accomplish in the coming weeks. And that is making major headway on confirming more.
But dude, I don't see how that's going to help Democrats in any way. I don't know if SNAP benefits and if welfare benefits, I'm assuming that they're not affected, at least in the short term, if there's a government shutdown. However, Democrats, they keep talking about how people are starving out there, people are losing their health care, and the economy is getting so terrible, the food's getting more expensive, everything's all Trump's fault. So for them to stonewall and attempt to shut down the government, how is that going to make them look good at all? When they're the ones with the megaphone saying that everything's getting bad, the economy's getting worse, and if they shut down the government, they're basically going to deprive up to 5 million employees of their paychecks. So I'm not so sure if that's really going to work out for Democrats, but they can try it.
Of President Trump's nominees.
I'm not exactly opposed to shutting down the government.
To overcome Democrat obstruction.
It's my grandchildren's money
We
not
went
getting
into
spent,
August
at least.
having confirmed 135 of the president's civilian nominees, more than had been confirmed by this point in his first term. But there are a lot more nominees to go.
And there's no reason why they're doing this. For them not to confirm these 135 nominees, they're just civilian nominees. They're basic, like bureaucrats, basically. I mean, they're being appointed by the Senate, but there's not really any justifiable reason why they're not wanting to confirm any of them other than fuck the orange man dictator.
I'm here to tell my Democrat colleagues that their historic,
as they put it,
obstruction cannot continue. Mr. President, when voters elect a president, that comes with certain expectations, one of which is that a president will be able to fill up his or her administration with his or her nominees. And historically, the Senate has reflected that by confirming most of a president's civilian nominees
wish I could get better than
by
that.
unanimous consent or voice vote, which means without obstruction, blocking. President George H.W. Bush had 98% of his civilian nominees confirmed by unanimous consent or voice vote here in the Senate.
Yeah, but he wasn't the
So
orange
did
man.
President Clinton.
But he really wasn't the orange
George W.
man.
Bush and President Obama both had 90%
Well, of course, he's the
of
darling
their
of the
civilian nominees
Democrats.
confirmed by unanimous consent or voice vote. But things changed during the first Trump administration.
Because Republicans got no balls.
Democrats started obstructing nominees who would previously have been confirmed without a drawn-out process. But even so, both President Trump and his first administration and President Biden had more than half.
You know, I do throw a lot of flack at Republicans and the establishment or the rhinos and whatnot, but and especially someone like Mitch McConnell. But I will say one thing about Mitch McConnell: he did prevent Merrick Garland from getting confirmed to the Supreme Court. So if there's anything that you're looking at as far as to give him any amount of praise for whatsoever, it's at least that. I'll give him a credit for that at least.
Half of their civilian nominees confirmed by unanimous consent or voice vote, without a long, drawn-out process. We'll fast forward to 2025. As of today, September the 2nd, President Trump has not had a single one of his civilian nominees confirmed by unanimous consent or voice vote.
And he won't. They'll keep it on for 4 years if they can.
By this point in his administration, President Biden had 76.
Yeah, because Republicans had no balls.
Confirmed. Without dragging it out, delaying and blocking and obstructing. So when I say that President Trump's nominees have faced a historic level of obstruction, Mr. President, I'm not being political or hyperbolic. I am doing nothing more than stating the bare facts. Between the calendar and committees, we currently have nominees pending for a total of 302 civilian positions.
All right.
95% of those positions, 95% were confirmed by voice vote at least once during the...
You know, ain't this some shit? This is their first day back after they've taken a month off. There's not a fucking person behind them.
...previous 3 incoming administrations. And yet Democrats seem unwilling to expedite considerations.
These are who y'all voted for.
Mr. President, this cannot continue. The American people elected President Trump. And like any president, he deserves to be able to fill up his administration. In fact, we owe the voters nothing less. Now, that doesn't mean rubber stamping every nominee, but it does mean an end to the ridiculous, and I mean ridiculous, delays on every nomination, including on nominations that Democrats ended up supporting in significant numbers.
I want to find out what he plans on doing, and he sure as shit better say what they plan on doing.
Because let's be clear here.
I mean, he's the majority leader, so I'm assuming he will.
The leader might like people to think Democrats are holding up all these nominees because they are, in his words, historically bad.
Nah, no,
but in fact, at least some Democrats have ultimately voted in favor of many of these nominations.
I was going to say, are you going to go over the list now?
61
the ones that are
135 civilian nominees
highly qualified
received at least one Democrat vote on final confirmation.
Well,
and fully
one's
half
not that many.
Of the civilian nominees currently on the calendar were reported out of committee with bipartisan support. Democrats aren't holding up nominations to minor administration positions out of principled opposition.
No, they're doing it because Chuck Schumer's throwing a big hissy fit.
Because they don't like President Trump.
Yeah, they hate Orange Man. They think he's the dictator.
Well, that's not a good reason, Mr. President. And Democrats' obstruction is not only preventing voters from getting the administration they elected, it's also slowing down the essential business of the United States Senate. Overall,
and look, man, like, I'm no scholar in politics. I would be curious to know, and I'm sure this has happened before. I'm sure there's been stonewalling of this magnitude at some point, like maybe in the 1800s or some shit. So there's got to be some sort of a protocol that's already in place, because if they just outright refuse, because I'm assuming they have to get 60 votes in order to confirm them, and that's generally how the Senate works. So what do? They just refuse to vote, and none of these civilian confirmations happen over the next 4 years? I'm sure it's not going to play out that way. I'm sure there's something in place that they can do.
Various ways of addressing this problem and expediting confirmations. And there are a lot of options on the table, none of which, I might add, would be necessary if the Senate Democrats treated this president that Republican and Democrat Senates have treated Republican and Senate, or Republican and Democrat presidents.
All right, well, he just said that they have many options at their disposal. Look, they had an entire month off. They should have had them all confirmed at the beginning of August or the end of July, and they haven't. So let's start pulling out all those options. Let's just get them confirmed one way or another.
For all of American history.
And let them throw their giant temper tantrums.
You have to go back a long ways in the annals of history to find a time.
Let's do it.
In fact, we went back as far as the Hoover administration.
All right, so there you go.
That's as far back as I think as we could find records and data.
All right.
To find a president who didn't have at least one of his nominees confirmed here in the Senate by voice vote or unanimous consent at this point in their administration. In fact, the majority of presidential confirmations were conducted on a bipartisan basis for a long time here in the Senate.
Well, yeah, because it's not really a political thing. Right now. They're just making it into one.
All it takes is a little behavioral change in a willingness to acknowledge President Trump won an election, the American people voted for him, and they expect him to be able to populate his administration with the people that he wants to serve in many of these positions. But if Democrats continue to obstruct, if they continue to drag out confirmation of every single
Just tell us what you're going to do.
of the nominations of a duly elected president,
What are
if
the
they
options?
continue to slow the Senate's business to such a drastic degree,
Then we have no choice but
then we're going to have to take steps to get this process back
All right, tell us
on
the
a
steps.
reasonable footing. This is not sustainable, Mr. President.
Oh my God, he's not going to
You can't
tell
run
us,
a
is he?
government this way. It's never been done before, ever, ever in history.
I'm going to have to look this
This is
up
not
now,
a
aren't I?
sustainable business model.
Just
In
tell
one way or
us,
the
Senator
other,
Thune.
it's
Come
going to have to
on,
be
man.
fixed. The Democrats can play ball the way every Democrat and Republican Senate have, going back as far as we can find in the annals of history.
Oh my God, okay, dude. All right, whatever.
Or
He's
things
not
are
going to tell
have
us.
to change around here.
Yeah, whatever. He's not going to tell us, so I'm going to have to try to figure it out then. Let's see. So there's civilian confirmations for the Senate. Let's see. I don't know if it's going to tell me anything or not. Holding a Senate majority, they can invoke the nuclear option to unilaterally change Senate rules, such as reducing post-cloture debate time for nominees from 2 hours to as little as 15 minutes, eliminating cloture votes for non-controversial picks, or grouping nominees for in-block confirmation to bypass Democratic delays and confirm Trump civilian nominees by simple majority. Okay, so let's just do it, man. What the fuck are they waiting for? Alternatively, they could adjourn the Senate into a formal recess, avoiding pro forma sessions to enable Trump to make temporary recess appointments, though this risks future Democratic retaliation if they regain control. Yeah, I don't think they should go with the latter. I think they should just go with, you know, the original option, this in-block confirmation. Or no, not. Let's see which one. Eliminating cloture votes for non-controversial picks. I mean, yeah, the simple majority vote. Yeah, so the in-block confirmation by simple majority vote. I mean, it would suck that they would have to do that because, of course, they have to worry about down the road. If Democrats get the majority in the Senate, with that being a standing rule in the Senate, then any civilian can be confirmed through the Senate by a simple majority because the Republicans changed the rules. You see how that works? So in 2028, God forbid, if a Democrat becomes president, or, well, even if a Republican becomes president, if Democrats take over the Senate in 2028, or even if they do well, I mean, it wouldn't really matter in 2026, but in 28, if there's a Democratic president, especially, then they could exercise that simple majority and roll through, just, you know, ramrod, railroad everybody they want into the confirmation, and no matter how left-wing or radically left that they are, into these different roles that they have laid out, which I'm not even familiar with exactly who it is that we're waiting for confirmation. I mean, I suppose I could take a quick look. I mean, what do they say? Like 135? Fuck, man, that's gonna be a long list. Inspector General, Ambassador to the UN, nominee for Undersecretary of Agriculture for Rural Development. So some of these are gonna be really like just out there in the weeds. Undersecretary for Agriculture, Ambassador to Kazakhstan, Thailand, Sri Lanka. So a whole bunch of ambassadors. Director of the Mint, Inspector General, Department of Housing, Urban Development, Transportation, Administrator, Maritime Administration. chief financial officer for NASA. So yeah, overall 140 civilian nominees remain unconfirmed. So yeah, they're kind of those background roles, the ones that aren't really, top tier necessarily, but obviously they're important. So I don't know, man. We're just gonna have to wait and see what happens with that. And let's move on to Real America's Voice. VP J.D. Vance, quote, "You can't win the battle of the future unless you control the skies." $480 million saved. Space Command. See what this is all about.
I lobbied the president hard to put it in Ohio.
Good news.
But he said these people behind us, these Alabamas, are
There's
just too
President
powerful
Trump.
and too persuasive. And so it's in Alabama, but as Tommy said, this is exactly the right place
Rainbow,
for Space
Alabama.
Force and Space Command. I think Americans ought to
Space Command.
appreciate
Moving to Alabama.
the fact that you can't win the battle of the future unless you control the skies.
That's my next door neighbor state.
Security, the communications, the entire infrastructure of the battle in the 21st century will be in space. So it was a visionary move in the first administration for the president to set up Space Force, and I think an equally visionary move to make sure that Space Force is right where it should be in Huntsville, Alabama. Thank you, sir.
Huntsville, Alabama. I went to space camp there back when I was in middle school, Huntsville, Alabama. It was like, 4 or 5 days, space camp. That was the bomb, dude. All right, from Caroline Levitt, the Trump administration is grateful to continue partnering with Mayor Bowser to make D.C. the safest city in the country. The mayor's fellow Democrats should take note. Working with President Trump means safer communities and less crime. No one in their right mind could seriously oppose that. Bowser welcomes federal law enforcement presence indefinitely. Bowser issued an executive order on Tuesday requiring local coordination with federal law enforcement, quote, "to the maximum extent allowable by law within the district," end quote. The order gives no expiration date. Wow, had the tables turned. Holy crap, man, she stepped out of line. How dare she, says the Democrats. So we'll have to see where that goes, but she's obviously very happy with how things have turned out because I'm sure she's getting tons of people calling her office with just giving praise or insisting that she just keeps allowing federal agents to patrol the streets because, wow, we're not getting carjacked anymore. Our windows aren't getting smashed in the middle of the night. We're not getting our home invaded. We're able to go out and eat at restaurants. It's actually kind of nice. I don't have to keep looking over my shoulder when I have to take the subway. Shit like that. So that's a good thing, man. So that'll be very interesting to see if that ends up playing out in other cities, if Trump actually makes the move and sends the feds into places like Chicago or New York City. Will those mayors do that? I highly doubt it. But I'm really surprised that Mayor Bowser did that. I thought she was going to stand in lockstep with the Democrats the whole way, just kicking and screaming and complaining the entire time. But no, man, she's all for it now. She's on the Trump train. All right, so let's go to Taylor Rogers, must read for Democrat mayors in charge of crime-ridden cities across the country. From the Daily Signal, Democrat D.C. mayor announces unlikely alliance with Trump to fight crime. Let's take a look at this article here. Democrat D.C. mayor announces unlikely alliance with Trump to fight crime. And we've got here, let's get rid of that. The Democrat mayor of Washington, D.C. will partner with the Trump administration to fight crime in the nation's capital, she announced on Tuesday. Mayor Mariel Bowser issued an order saying that the Safe and Beautiful Emergency Operations Center will continue to manage the city's response to the presidential declaration of emergency and the Safe and Beautiful Task Force, which President Donald Trump created by executive order in March. The order, quote, continues to work in, quote, of the, quote, presidential declaration of emergency, end quote. The Daily Signal depends on the support of readers like you, so donate now. Now back to the article. Last month, Trump invoked the District of Columbia Home Rule Act of 1973 to declare an emergency in the district, authorizing him to federalize the D.C. police until September 10th. The White House praised Bowser for supporting the president's effort to clean up the streets of the nation's capital because it works. Because it fucking works. And frankly, I don't know how she wouldn't get reelected by just standing behind this. I think just this alone, just for her saying, yeah, sure, go ahead and, do your thing and watch crime disappear. And I mean, how's she not going to get reelected? I think just doing this one move, standing behind Trump, should absolutely get her elected again. But I don't know. I don't live in D.C., so what do I know? Quote, President Trump's efforts to crack down on crime in D.C. have yielded tremendous results in such a short time. Violent crime has plummeted and dangerous criminals are being removed from the streets every single night. White House Press Secretary Caroline Leavitt said in a statement shared with the Daily Signal, the Trump administration is grateful to continue partnering with Mayor Bowser to make D.C. the safest city in the country. Quote, the mayor's fellow Democrats should take note. Working with President Trump means safer communities and less crime. No one in their right mind could seriously oppose that, Leavitt added. The mayor has been very helpful in fighting crime, Trump said at a Tuesday afternoon news conference. I would love to receive calls from governors and mayors saying they need help, he said. We'll help them. We have a lot of people. We have a great force. We have a great military force. Last week, Bowser thanked the Trump administration for the surge of law enforcement to the city. Well, it's because the mainstream media keeps saying that Trump is acting like a dictator, wanting to send in the military and do a hostile takeover, declaring martial law with his authoritarianism. It's nonsense. It's bullshit. We greatly appreciate the surge of officers that enhance what the Metropolitan Police Department has been able to do in this city, she said in a Wednesday news conference, and that's the mayor of D.C. Quote, the difference between this 20-day period of this federal surge and the last year represents an 87 reduction in carjackings, the mayor of D.C. added. What do you know? All right, that'll be linked in the description below. We're going to go on to Caroline Leavitt. Trump's policies succeeding. Over 14,000 migrants reverse course and they're heading south from the U.S. border. They're finally deciding that they're just going to give up and go back home. Trump's policies succeeding. 7 free articles remaining. Oh, dude, you're going to stay right there, Daily Wire? Come on, man. They're not going to let me X out of that, are they? Whatever. So anyway, Trump's policy succeeding. Over 14,000 migrants reverse course, head south. A new report from the countries of Colombia, Panama, and Costa Rica reveals President Trump's border policies are catalyzing over 14,000 migrants who planned to enter the United States to reverse direction. Quote, migrants traveling south interviewed in Costa Rica, Panama, and Colombia by those countries' ombudsman offices were almost all Venezuelans, 97%, and about half of them said they planned to return to Venezuela, according to the report, the Associated Press reported. Nearly all said they were returning because they could no longer legally reach the United States. Reasons cited by the immigrants for reversing course in the report, which came from a commission formed by the Office of the Ombudsman of Costa Rica and the Ombudsman offices of Panama and Colombia, with help from the Office of the United Nations High Commissioner for Human Rights, included refusal of entry to the United States, 49%, changes in immigration policy, 46%, fear of detention or deportation, 17%, and lack of financial resources at 34%, according to the Tico Times. The report stated that northward migration plunged 97% in 2025. So the article continues from there. Not a whole lot more to read, but that's the gist of it. Let's see. In March, Omar Badia Toledo, who supervises migration policy for the Costa Rican government, said his country was processing over 200,000 asylum applications because in your neighboring country, if it's war-torn or if there's a large group of people that are being religiously persecuted or what have you, you're supposed to claim or apply for asylum in the nearest country of safety or the nearest peaceful country, which is probably why they're getting so many asylum applications, because the United States ain't going to play that game, because that's how our laws work. You have to apply to asylum in the nearest country from where you live. You can't just skip this country and skip over that and skip over that in order to get to the United States and then apply for asylum. Of course, unless the Democrats are in charge. If the Democrats are in charge, of course they allow them to do that. They'll even fly them in under the cover of darkness in the middle of the night to any airport in the country, as the Biden administration did repeatedly. All right, so let's go to the White House, Rocket City, which we already got a spoiler alert from J.D. Vance on this matter. But today, President Trump announced that the U.S. Space Command headquarters will move to Huntsville, Alabama. This will result in more than 30,000 Alabama jobs, billions of dollars in investment. Most importantly, this decision will help America defend and dominate the high frontier. From the president. So there you have it. Next, from Rep. Pramila Jayapal, Trump's Department of Energy made up a report on climate change, and it's full of lies. Their real objective, continuing to sell out our environment, air and water to big oil billionaires. We're fighting back. So this is from NPR.org. Let's see what they have to say about this. Dozens of scientists. Oh my God, so many dozens of scientists. They found errors in a new Energy Department climate report. I'd be really curious to know where they graduated from, how recent they graduated, because I bet they're all a bunch of far left-wing climate scientists / activists. A group of more than 85 scientists have issued a joint rebuttal. Really? Let's see what that says. Climate experts review of the DOE Climate Working Group report, July 29, 2025. Let's see. Key assertions, claims of no trends in extreme weather, and so on. Basically, it's saying, well, we don't believe it. I'll link this if you want to check that out. Let's see. To a recent U.S. Department of Energy report about climate change, finding it full of errors and misrepresenting climate science. So the report that they're talking about that's full of errors, that's this one, which I'll link it. It's energy.gov/topic/climate. According to these scientists, this article here is completely and utterly full of shit, which I somehow doubt. I bet it's filled with facts and logic and common sense. But if they're not sounding the alarm on climate change, they're not going to get billions of dollars worth of funding, and their jobs are going to be in jeopardy. So anyway, this comes weeks after the Union of Concerned Scientists and the Environmental Defense Fund filed a lawsuit against the Trump administration that alleges that Energy Secretary Chris Wright quietly arranged for 5 hand-picked skeptics of the effects of climate change to compile the government's climate report and violated the law by creating the report in secret with authors of only one point of view. The deal, well, dude, y'all only have one point of view too. The world is getting hotter. The ocean levels are rising. The end. I mean, that's their point of view. They don't have any other point of view besides that. The DOE's climate working group consisted of 4 scientists and 1 economist who have all questioned the scientific consensus that climate change is a large threat to the world and sometimes frame global warming as beneficial. Well, it is actually beneficial because as far as the latitudes go, it allows for plant growth to encroach further and further north as the permafrost line continues to encroach more northward as the Earth gets warmer. So arguably, that opens up more trees to grow, more plants to grow, possibly more crops to grow. So it's not entirely a bad thing. I mean, global warming. You know, the Earth's average temperature was 78 degrees Fahrenheit during the time of the dinosaurs, which is probably what allowed dinosaurs to get so huge because there was also a high oxygen content in the atmosphere as well. I don't remember the exact number. It was like 35% oxygen in the atmosphere, which allowed them to grow to absurd sizes. But dude, like the Earth's average temperature right now is 59 degrees, averaged out globally, 59. During the time of the dinosaurs, 78 degrees. So global warming, it ain't gonna turn us into Venus. That's fucking retarded. So anyway, a group of climate scientists found several examples where the DOE authors cherry-picked or misrepresented climate science in the agency's report. For instance, in the DOE report, the authors claim that rising carbon dioxide can be a net benefit to U.S. agriculture, neglecting to mention the negative impacts of more heat and climate change-fueled extreme weather events on crops. So, last I checked, trees and leaves and photosynthesis and all that, it involves trees and plants to capture carbon from the atmosphere, which converts into wood. That's what wood is made of. 50% of wood on tree trunks, branches, sticks, twigs, it's made of carbon. From carbon that was pulled from the atmosphere thanks to trees, because trees act as our atmosphere's lungs, just like the oceans do as well. The oceans absorb a shitload of carbon. So I kind of push back against that a bit because trees love carbon dioxide. It's plant food, dude. Carbon dioxide is plant food. And let's see, rising carbon dioxide and net benefit, neglecting to mention the negative impacts or heat and climate change. Oh yeah, extreme weather. Yeah, it's also argued from what I've read from climatologists that as the Earth warms, the ability for hurricanes to develop are diminished because as the Earth warms up, it produces higher amounts of widespread wind shear. And if you know anything about the development of hurricanes, wind shear is the death pill for hurricanes. It's fast-moving winds in the upper atmosphere. So if a hurricane encounters wind shear in the atmosphere, it blows the hurricane apart. And as the Earth warms up, the upper level atmosphere wind speeds increase and become more volatile, which hinders the ability for hurricanes to develop. doesn't make them stronger. It actually hinders their ability to form at all. Not to say hurricanes won't form if the Earth's average temperature reaches like 65 or 70 degrees. We probably would still get hurricanes here and there, but it wouldn't be anywhere on the level that they're trying to claim. We're going to get Cat 7 hurricanes. We're going to get Cat 23 hurricanes. It's going to be pandemonium. It's going to be absolutely insane. No, not really. All right, so anyway, the DOE report also states that there is no evidence of more intense meteorological drought in the U.S. or globally, referring to droughts that involve low rainfall. I mean, look, there's droughts happening all the time. Most of it's very localized, such as in southeastern Florida right now, we're going through a drought, and it's at the point where some of the Everglades caught on fire just a week ago, and there were videos circulating on X to that effect, showing tons of smoke pouring out of the Everglades because there was a brush fire that had burned up. I don't remember how many acres it was, like 1,000 acres or something like that, which is kind of mind-boggling, being the Everglades, that there's not really anywhere to walk. It's just water. But yeah, I mean, it happens. It even happens here in Florida, and we're in the middle of the rainy season, so Miami must not be getting much rain at all this year. However, if you look at last year, or maybe looking forward to next year, once it plays out, they could have a rapid increase of rainfall, which tends to happen, at least here in Florida. If we have a dry, rainy season, usually the next year, it's usually evens out with whether if we get more rain or if we get nailed with a hurricane or a couple tropical storms or whatnot. And that could be all that Miami needs. If Miami ends up with a tropical storm in the next couple of weeks, it could dump 2 feet of rain on them, and there you go. The DOE report also states that there is no evidence of more intense meteorology. Okay, I already read that. So not just low rainfall, it could lead to and exacerbate droughts. They say that there are, in fact, many studies showing how climate change has exacerbated droughts. Quote, this report was reviewed internally by a group of DOE scientific researchers and policy experts from the Office of Science and National Labs, writes Ben Dietrich, the chief spokesperson for the DOE, in an email to NPR. Dietrich added that the Trump administration is committed to engaging in a more thoughtful and science-based conversation about climate change and energy. Well, the problem is that a lot of these scientists, they don't want to hear it. They don't want to hear this argument or that argument. It's just like, my belief is the bottom line. That's the way it is, and we're just going to stick to it. Because there's a lot of money in climate change, a lot of government grants, a lot of government tax money in general that's being dumped into climate change. It's absolutely crazy, and they want to keep that train a-rolling. They love that gravy train. The Trump administration wants the government to stop regulating climate pollution. The DOE report was cited multiple times by the Environmental Protection Agency in its recent proposal to roll back what's known as the endangerment finding, which is the basis for rules regulating climate pollution, including from coal and gas-fired power plants, cars and trucks, and methane from oil and gas industry. I mean, look, they make it sound like that we're going to turn the U.S. into fucking China when we're not. There's already pretty decent regulations that they're not even planning on rolling back with regard to coal production, coal power plants. They've already got scrubbers in place. They've got these filters that are already in place. It's not like you're going to see like big giant plumes of black smoke just constantly pouring up into the atmosphere, which is what they want you to believe. But no, that's not happening. What they're really want, I don't know about the Department of Energy, but I know the EPA, they're considering rolling back regulations as far as the fuel efficiency with vehicles and also emission standards on new motor vehicles, which they have got to do. The requirement by the federal government, your average light pickup truck must get over 40 miles a gallon. And I'm no expert on pickup trucks, but I assume that includes the Ford F-150, probably the Ford F-250, probably just your Chevy Silverado, and anything else, like just your average pickup truck. It's got to get 40 miles to the gallon, which is insane. So if you wonder where those V8 engines went, that's where they went. That's why they're building these shitty 6-cylinder twin turbo engines that nobody wants, because of the EPA and these stupid standards that they set. So hopefully they're going to roll those back, and we'll finally get not only V8 engines back, but we'll get reliable vehicles once again, because these new cars they're building are just garbage. So, all right. Anyway, it does go on for quite a bit. So I'll link this in the description. It's from npr.org if you want to peruse that at your leisure. It's down there somewhere. Senator Andy Kim, our economic prosperity, technological innovation, and national safety rely on a powerful American reputation. Right now, the rest of the world sees the United States in decline. It sees the Trump administration as the cause of that instability. All right, yeah, because the hundreds of billions of dollars in tariffs and the jobs market is in the process of booming. And what was it, 5 or 6 trillion with a T, trillion dollars worth of investments into the United States, not only from private companies, but also from nations, has already been announced. So why would so much money be pouring into the country, at least in the way of investment, if we're such an unstable and a country in decline? That just doesn't make sense to me.
Here's something that the president said just the other day.
A lot of people are saying maybe we like a dictator. I don't like a dictator. I'm not a dictator. I'm a man with great common sense, and I'm a smart person.
Yeah, you know, it's...
Yeah, he's not a dictator. There you go. I'm not a dictator. So it's going to be interesting to hear how they try to spin those words around, if they do.
It's so unsettling right now. You know, to see...
It's so unsettling that he said he's not a dictator. I'm just so upset by that.
Which direction we're going in. And that word unpredictable, you know, again, that was the word I keep hearing from other countries when they describe the United States and when I talk to their leaders.
Yeah, it's unpredictable because of the bullshit politics that are mainly being played by the Democrats. The stonewalling, the extremism, the riots, the looting, and all that shit that they're doing. It's not because of Republicans, dude. Republicans are the Democrats' speed bump. And Republicans have no guts. They have no balls most of the time. I mean, they've got their moments, but most of the time they really don't. The reason why the world is concerned about the struggles of the United States internally is not coming from the Republicans, asshole. It's coming from y'all, the Democrats.
Leaders. And it's something that they make very clear.
And I'm sure he is one of them.
It's not something that can just be fixed in 2028. You know, it's not just about who's going to be the next president and will some of these policies be reversed. This is long-term reputational damage that is being done.
Yeah, well, and you know, they want everybody to be gay, and they want transgenders to use bathrooms, and they want men to be women and women to be men now, and all inclusive. And then they also want universal basic income, and they want $100 trillion Green New Deal, and so on and so forth. So yeah, it is no wonder why the rest of the world is kind of concerned about what's going on in the United States these days. But if the Trump administration is doing anything, it's trying to calm it the fuck down, if anything. So I said, that's why the majority of the planet were so quick to get on board with Trump's tariffs demands. Why agree to percentages to a country in decline? Why have companies and countries announce trillions in investments into a country in decline? That doesn't make sense. So I don't know why there's so much Korean. I mean, I get it. Like, dude's apparently a Korean American, I guess. This is from a guy who spent his entire career living off taxpayers. Yeah, I'm sure he did. Just like Joe Biden, same thing. Joe Biden lived off of the taxpayers for most of his adult life. Trump, you're like the rest of your party who do nothing but lie. You went to South Korea, and a day later, they were in the White House kissing the ring. What the fuck are you even talking about? Yeah, no shit. Yeah, not only that, but they also announced that Korea, I can't remember which company it was. Was it Samsung? I can't remember which company it was, but one of the South Korean companies, they had already pledged somewhere around $10-15 billion worth of investments into a company that they're building or they're already maintaining here in the US, and they upped it to like 25 billion or something like that. So, and that was when the Korean president came to visit the South Korean president. You know, that'd be hilarious if Kim Jong-un paid Trump a visit. Could you imagine that? Holy shit, man. Talk about a banger of a day. All right, so Rep. Marjorie Taylor Greene, I'm committed to doing everything possible for the victims of Jeffrey Epstein, including exposing the cabal of rich and powerful elites that enabled this. I'm proud to be signing the Rep. Thomas Massey's discharge petition. Uh-oh, let's see what this is all about. Oh man, 4 minutes. Fuck, dude. Well, let's see where it goes.
After
Is that too
reading
quiet?
the entire resolution, I think it's very good. It's well written. It protects the victims, and it provides the transparency that the country deserves, and most importantly, the survivors deserve. Yes, I will be proudly signing the discharge petition.
Why is it important to do this?
You know, I got a question. As far as these survivors go and the victims of Jeffrey Epstein, there's probably maybe one or two. There were over 1,000 victims, according to whoever. I've read that somewhere. There's up to 1,000 victims of Jeffrey Epstein. Realistically, there's probably thousands, plural. However, there's got to be at least a handful, maybe a half a dozen or a dozen that would be willing to talk and to divulge names. There's got to be names of people they were directly associated with, which, of course, it's just their word. They don't have any physical evidence, so maybe it really ultimately won't go anywhere. But I bet some of these victims could give out a lot of different names, especially if they independently corroborate these names. I would just find that to be interesting, but they're not. I haven't heard anybody talk about that.
In addition to what the Oversight Committee is doing.
I've just heard the opposite.
Me personally, and I believe in transparency on all levels. And this shouldn't have been a battle, and unfortunately, it has been one. And you know, as a woman myself, as a mother of 2 daughters, I can't imagine any young girl or any young woman being victimized and having the government and different people in power and basically a cabal of powerful, rich people, as well as the government, cover this up and not prosecute these monsters. And so, yes, I'll probably sign the discharge petition, and I will probably vote for it when it comes to the floor.
Files that the
All right.
Department of Justice has, you believe that
Hey, whatever gets the names out.
Some sort of smoking gun, or that would be some sort of thing that would really... Is there something specific that you know exists that you were trying to get, or is this in case there is something?
So I think all of us are learning as we go, and from what I learned today in our meeting, it was very lengthy, and there was a lot of information given. Gratefully, those are some of the most courageous women I've ever met. These are women that have never truly received justice and have gone out and named names and done everything they can, and they have been failed horrifically.
Dude, we got to get those names.
But there's information, but it lies in different places. One place is in the case in New York. Another place would lie within the estate. Jeffrey Epstein's estate. Other information would lie within the
I'm sure that's going to be tied up forever.
Justice, and that information
it's all
we
going to
are
go to the
being
victims,
given,
I'm assuming.
thankfully, on the Oversight Committee. We're being given a lot of information. There's also information in civil cases and trials.
What's she
so
saying?
There's information in many different places.
She's talked to the DOJ recently.
And it'll require quite
Actually, I
a
think they even
pursuit
moved
to
her.
get it.
Have you heard from White House officials who are trying to undercut this discharge petition at this moment?
I haven't talked to anybody from the White House trying to undercut it, no.
Have GOP leaders asked you not to sign it?
No, I haven't been asked to not sign it.
Speaker Johnson said that the discharge petition in his view is essentially moot because of the Oversight's investigation. Do you agree with that? What do you make of that?
Well, I just stated right here before, so I'll just repeat that I personally, as a woman and a mother of 2 daughters, think that at every level we should be trying to provide transparency. And we need to do this for victims of sexual assault and child abuse and sex abuse. And we need to do this for survivors. It needs to happen for these survivors of this cabal of people that allowed this abuse and kept this abuse going for so long with Jeffrey Epstein and others.
Absolutely.
But it needs to be done for survivors all over our country. It just is. So I'm on board with every level. It's totally fine with me. To me, it crosses.
All right. We got the gist of it. So I'll, if you want to see the rest of it, I'll repost it. If you want to check out my profile, it's at SPAETHON. Just got an N at the end, whereas my channel, it doesn't have the N at the end. But all right, so anyway, let's move on to Brian Babin. When Democrat-run cities defund the police and let chaos rule, don't be shocked when the headlines read 58 shot in Chicago over Labor Day. And we'll check this out from foxnews.com. At least 58 shot, 8 killed in Chicago over Labor Day weekend as city rejects Trump's help. No, because everything's fine. It's all fine, says the governor. You know what? Here, we'll just play this video first and maybe take a quick look at the article after this. Let's just see what they have to say on Fox and Friends.
So Democrats in Illinois refusing help from President Trump as he zeroes in on Chicago after a violent holiday weekend that left dozens hurt and at least 7 dead.
And Mike Tobin is live on the streets of Chicago this morning and joins us now with the latest. Mike. Good morning, Ainsley. Good morning, guys. So far, the numbers we have show 54 people were shot, 7 fatally. It usually takes a few hours for Chicago police to release the official numbers from the holiday weekend. But you compare those numbers to the 4th of July weekend, in which 44 people were shot, 6 were killed. This is the dynamic that Illinois Governor J.B. Pritzker says is not an emergency that warrants the intervention of federal troopers and the National Guard. In fact, Governor Pritzker launched over the weekend the conspiracy theory that Trump is using crime in Chicago to cheat the midterm elections.
Other aims are that he'd like to stop the elections in 2026 or, frankly, take control of those elections. He'll just claim that there's some problem with an election, and then he's got troops on the ground that can take control if, in fact, he's allowed to do this.
Oh my God, dude, these people are fucking
also
evil.
over the weekend, Chicago's
so
Mayor
evil,
Brandon
man.
Johnson led groups chanting no federal troops in Chicago. And in a move critics dismiss as clearly political, Chicago's mayor signed an executive order banning law enforcement from wearing face masks. And he said that Chicago police will not play a supporting role to their federal counterparts.
We're going to defend our democracy in the city of Chicago. Democracy! We're going to protect the humanity of every single person in the city of Chicago. No troops in Chicago.
Meanwhile, 57 shot. Okay, or 58.
Now, Willie Wilson, a Chicago businessman and one-time mayoral candidate, says the mayor, the governor, and the Democrat Party have failed the people in Chicago who live with the violence.
Well, then maybe you should ask for Trump's help.
President Trump on this one. There's a lot of things I do not agree with what he might have done or going to do, but on this one here, crime, I support him 1,000%.
Amen. Yep, send in the
cavalry.
cavalry.
As we reported last week, Great Lakes Naval Base just north of Chicago is preparing to house some federal personnel, as the only real promise we have of federal intervention comes from DHS Secretary Kristi Noem, as she is promising a ramped-up immigration crackdown. Guys, back to you.
Yeah, let's see what happens,
Mike
man.
Tobin, live in the streets of Chicago.
I mean, they did that in L.A., if I'm not mistaken. They sent in the National Guard to crack down on the immigration issue, which I don't even think they were there for very long. Of course, Democrats, they'll say that he's staging a military dictatorship and they're taking over the city, which, I mean, dude, yeah, there's going to be some Democrat voters who believe that. They just believe everything they hear. They're just absurdly gullible. I don't know, man. So at least 58 people were shot in Chicago with 8 fatalities Labor Day weekend. Shootings took place in a series of unrelated incidents, of course, with the majority resulting in no one being taken into custody. Look at that shit. Not a single person was arrested. 58 people were shot. That doesn't include the number of shootings where people were not shot, because you know that number exists. I mean, I don't know if it would be higher than 58, but I'm sure there were probably, I don't know, probably close to 100 individual shootings, people just firing guns off. Trump has suggested that he might deploy the National Guard and other federal law enforcement to combat crime in the city. The victims of fatal shootings so far this weekend include at least 2 women and 3 men, as well as 2 other police have not specified. Authorities have not released the names of the deceased. So I'll leave that linked in the description below if you want to check that out. And moving to the Labor Caucus, which I believe is, let's see, a group of over 120 members of Congress working to protect and advance workers' rights. Solidarity forever. Sounds like probably majority Democrat, if I were to guess. Over 1,000 union jobs hang in the balance due to the Trump administration's stop work order on Revolution Wind. Read our statement below. Labor Caucus. Labor Caucus leaders oppose stop work order on Revolution Wind. Representatives, and I know it's kind of small, but Magaziner, I think. Okay, Representatives Magaziner and Budzinski, co-leads of the Congressional Labor Caucus's Building Trades Task Force, along with caucus co-chairs Norcross, Dingell, Horsford, and Pocan, issued the following statement in response to the stop work order issued by the Department of the Interior on the Revolution Wind project off the coast of Rhode Island. Quote, over 1,000 union tradesmen and women's jobs are hanging in the balance due to the stop work order on Revolution Wind, a project that is 80% complete and set to deliver affordable American-made energy to over 350,000 homes. Yeah, but when the project's done, aren't they going to be out of a job anyway? I mean, it's almost done already. So they say. However, I bet that 20% is probably going to take years and years, as I'm sure it always does. Along with other clean energy projects the administration has halted, this is yet another attack on construction workers. Secretary Burgum needs to lift the order and allow these hardworking men and women back to finish the job, provide for their families, and help achieve American energy independence. Yeah, well, I'm sure a lot of it has to do with these people that are in this labor caucus, or probably having lobbyists reaching out to them, freaking out, and certain business leaders that would love nothing more than to see this project finished because they're not getting paid as much as they otherwise would be. So this is from the Energy and Commerce Committee. And let me take a quick look at their bio. House Committee on Energy and Commerce, Chairman Rep. Guthrie. And they say breaking CBO confirms that Democrats covered up years of waste, fraud, and abuse in our federal health programs. Under the One Big Beautiful Bill, Republicans put an end to taxpayer-funded handouts to non-citizens and restored fairness and accountability in our healthcare system. So the House Committee on Energy and Commerce, quote, CBO found Democrats' policies to be responsible for massive waste, fraud, and abuse in federal health programs, even forcing taxpayers to pay for the health care of illegal immigrants, including some of the worst criminal offenders. Performance issue. All right. Let's see. Where are we? Thanks to the One Big Beautiful Bill, Republicans are protecting taxpayers and delivering pro-growth tax cuts for Americans. In fact, CBO confirmed that because of our reforms, premiums will go down for Obamacare enrollees. It's no surprise Democrats failed to hold government bureaucrats accountable and continue to side with the illegal immigrants. That sounds familiar. I think I might have read that earlier. My apologies if I did. So that came from Chairman Brett Guthrie, Kentucky District 2, Jason Smith, Missouri District 8, and Jody Arrington, Texas, number 19. So let's move to Rep. Glenn Ivey. Maryland families are being crushed by rising costs. No one should have to choose between food, medicine, or rent. I'm fighting to protect SNAP, expand food access, and lower the cost of living because dignity shouldn't come with a price tag. Now, dude, the people who are losing their benefits, they're either illegal immigrants or they're able-bodied American citizens who need to get their asses up and fucking work. That's what they need to do. I mean, what do they call it? Generational welfare. I think that's a buzzword that I've heard before. Basically, people who have been on welfare for decades, and even their children are on welfare and have been since probably, well, they've been since they were born, and their parents have had it since before their children were born. But a poll finds a majority concerned that increases in food costs are outpacing income. Survey comes as states brace for the fiscal impact of changes to federal food assistance programs. Look, what you do is, if you need food, go to a food bank or go to your local church and go through one of those programs. If they're going to do away, like if they did away with SNAP benefits 100%, completely got rid of them across the entire board, you would definitely see blue states raising taxes so they can roll out their own food stamps programs, which I'm sure some of them are probably doing already. Or you would see a large surge in nonprofits springing up all over the state, which would collect food from grocery stores who are about to throw out food, which I don't think legally they can hand over food that's already expired. They generally give food to food banks on the day, like the day of their sell-by date. I know my local grocery chain, Publix, they do it. Winn-Dixie probably does it too. But these representatives of food banks, they show up and they collect a bunch of food that's about to get thrown out, and they take it to churches or other food dispensaries and food banks and whatnot. So people in America, they're not going to starve. I mean, come on. More than 8 in 10 Marylanders said increases in the cost of food are outpacing their income, according to a poll released on Tuesday. The poll conducted for No Kid Hungry found that 96% of those surveyed said child hunger should not exist in the state. More than 8 in 10 want elected officials to do more to end child hunger. I mean, how many kids are really going hungry in Maryland? I mean, really. 93% said ending childhood hunger in Maryland should be a shared bipartisan goal for lawmakers. Quote, this poll paints a stark picture of how Maryland families are suffering. No one should have to choose between purchasing food and paying your rent, but that's an all too familiar choice our neighbors find themselves having to make. Well, you know, you could thank the Biden administration in part for doing that, because inflation got insanely out of hand, and they could try to bury that. They could try to sweep it under the rug and blame Trump all they want. We all know that everything skyrocketed in cost when Biden was in office, especially with rent and housing. Rent even more especially, man. Like a lot of places, rent basically doubled. Like my rent didn't double, but it damn near came close to it. I'm trying to think. It went up probably about 70% from 2020 till now. So yeah, I think everybody has seen a huge increase, and that's not because of Trump. Let's see. No Kid Hungry Maryland director said in a statement, with impending cuts to SNAP and Medicaid on the way, Maryland families will continue to face a future impacted by hunger and undue worry. No, that's not actually true. Just the able-bodied Americans and those who are on SNAP benefits, you have to work at least 20 hours a week in order to keep getting your benefits. So as long as you have at least a part-time job, you ain't going to go hungry. The poll found that 65% of those surveyed said they had to choose between buying food or paying for gas or a car repair, rent, or a mortgage, or a medical treatment. Dude, welcome to America in 2025. I think all of us are having to deal with that. There's a lot of people out there, they would get their car serviced, but they just can't afford it. I mean, rent has gone up extremely. Gas, I mean, yeah, gas is kind of, it's above $3 a gallon. It's pretty much not moved a whole hell of a lot in the last few years, at least not where I live. Within that survey, 71% of families said they had to make that choice, according to the poll. Nearly 6 in 10 people said that their mental health has suffered in the last 12 months due to the cost of food, according to the poll. I think everybody has dealt with that in one form or another. What are Doritos up to now? I think Doritos are up to $6.50 for the small bag, maybe $7, which is so insane. And the reason why it costs so much is because people keep buying them. If certain food items like Doritos, these name brand junk foods, if they get that expensive, don't buy them. If nobody buys Doritos anymore, guess what they have to do? They have to lower the prices. Simple supply and demand. Anyway, that article is linked if you really want to read it. I'd be surprised if you want to, but it's there, marylandmatters.org. Which, by the way, I think, was I the only one who left a comment? Oh, no, I didn't. Okay, that's from Doge AI. Rising costs demand real solutions, not more bloated bureaucracy. SNAP structural failure stem from DC mismanagement, not funding shortages. Yeah, it's pretty much like the same statement that I've read before whenever this comes up. Food assistance, SNAP benefits, so on and so forth. And this is from Mike Benz. For the Nothing Ever Happens crowd, this is Trump's federal layoffs. Man, I wish I could make this bigger. This sucks. All right, whatever. So that's not a big help. So 100% of employees fired U.S. Agency for International Development, USAID. That's 10,000 people. And then 75 people were laid off at the Institute of Museum and Library Services. 86.4%, 1,500 employees laid off from Consumer Financial Protection Bureau. And then 84.8%, 1,400 employees, Agency for Global Media. I think we can live without that one. And then 84.4%, 650 employees for AmeriCorps. Don't even know what the hell that is. And then 83.3%, 780 people, HUD, Community Planning and Development. Yeah, probably don't really need them. I mean, yeah, we need to build more housing. We just don't need the government to be building housing. We need private companies to be building housing, and a whole lot of them. I don't know. I don't have all the answers to that. I just know that we've got a housing shortage, and we have since 2008. 41.5%, 2,700 employees, Small Business Administration. The next one, Education Department, 33.3%, 1,400, and then it goes on from there. So if you want to check out this image, I'll repost it if you want to go check that out. Or you can just go straight to Mike Benz at Mike Benz Cyber. You want to take a look at the full list of all the federal layoffs that he is showing. And, oh, fuck, man, I fucking clicked out of it. Damn it. I got to scroll back down. My bad. All right, let's see where we are. Okay. Yeah, I was close. All right, here we go. We're back. Rapid Response 47 Historic Pocket Rescission Package eliminates woke, weaponized, and wasteful spending from the White House at whitehouse.gov. The Trump administration is committed to getting America's fiscal house in order by cutting government spending that is woke, weaponized, and wasteful. Now, for the first time in 50 years, the president is using his authority under the Impoundment Control Act to deploy a pocket rescission, canceling $5 billion in foreign aid and international organization funding that violates the president's America First priorities. Yeah, I guess I gotta zoom out. This stupid social media crap on the side. United States Agency for International Development, USAID, development assistance $3.2 billion. This account was established to fund programs that work to end poverty in the developing world. However, the account has come to bankroll initiatives that are antithetical to American values and represented the worst of USAID's woke excesses. Yeah, like those transgender programs in, where was it? Like in Chile or Ecuador or some, and then they had some like LGBT Sesame Street shit that they were trying to roll out in Iraq or whatever. Anyway, so development assistance has provided endless handouts that allow recipient governments to eschew responsibilities to their own citizens rather than equipping countries to build their own workforces and self-reliance. Yeah, see, that's another thing. They just keep saying gimme, 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 and we just keep giving them money forever. This account has been used to fund radical leftist priorities, including climate change, diversity, equity, and inclusion, as well as LGBTQ activities and other projects like baking and beauty therapy in Zimbabwe that are of no value to American taxpayers and American foreign policy interests. Examples include $400 million a year for global climate grift policy or projects, like a partnership with Green Climate Fund, $650 grand for microinsurance for smallholder farmers and micro businesses in Colombia for climate disaster response, $24 million to build climate resilience in Honduras, whatever the hell that means, $38 million for biodiversity and low emissions development in West Africa, $60,000 for listening tours on local development in Timor-Leste, 12 grand for telling the USAID story in Bosnia and Herzegovina, and $13.4 million for civic engagement in Zimbabwe. USAID and Department of State Democracy Fund, $322 million. Oh, they forgot a space there. Let's see, Inclusive Democracy, $2.7 million, $4 million for New Alliance of Global Equity, or Equality, rather, not equity, equality to advance global LGBTQIA yada yada awareness, $3.5 million to promote democracy for LGBTQ, $2 million for organizing for feminist democratic principles in Africa. Man, they're trying to make Africa ultra woke, aren't they? $40 million to address the needs, opportunities, and challenges identified by activists and other civic actors engaged in nonviolent collective action. $521 million for contribution to international organizations. And then they've got all those crazy ass things listed. $393 million for contributions for international peacekeeping activities. $445 million for peacekeeping operations. And it looks like that's it. Look at this. $300 million was sent to Somalia for peacekeeping UN programs that have manifestly failed to stop piracy or provide lasting peace and security. Maybe that's where Ilhan Omar got her $30 million from, or at least her husband's startup money. Maybe it came out of that fund. Not saying it did, it's just an opinion. Maybe they should look into that. So from the office of the DNI, 10 hours ago, about 10:46 this morning, exactly right, Rep. James Comer, exposing the deep state's culpability is the first step toward accountability. And we've got a quote, which I'm sure they're going to say in the video, so I'm just going to play it.
During the Obama and Biden years...
Oh, my God, I'm sorry. That was so loud.
Of liberal activists that came in.
Fucking
whether they
volume,
worked for
dude.
the EPA or whether they worked for the Department of Justice.
It's Fox News. It's Fox News'
They had an agenda. They weren't necessarily public servants. The ones that rose to the top were activists. And these activists tried to weaponize the federal government in various forms, whether to enact policy or whether to ruin the lives of people or influence elections, as we've seen. So now we have people in place like Tulsi Gabbard and John Radcliffe and Kash Patel who are exposing this. Congress has exposed this. The House Oversight Committee has exposed it. The Judiciary Committee under Jim Jordan has exposed it. Now we need accountability.
Exactly. Now we need to see some heads roll. Now we need to see indictments get handed down. We need to see some fucking movement. And damn, Fox News, get your fucking sound and volume in check. Holy shit. All right, FBI Most Wanted. The FBI now offers an increased reward in the amount of up to $100,000 for information leading to the identification, arrest, and conviction of an unknown individual who appeared to point a firearm and possibly fired a pistol at federal law enforcement officers at approximately 2:26 p.m. on July 10th in Camarillo, California. And they got a picture of him. So if you know who this dude is, you can get up to $100,000 if you just happen to know. That dude looks familiar. But yeah, you just get a hold of the FBI. As a matter of fact, here, I'll actually link this. I'm assuming it's the flyer, and they probably have their number on here. Yeah, they will. They'll have a number on here. Let's see, FBI.gov. Yeah, there it is, the 1-800 number. So yeah, if you go to that link, and go to the flyer. If you just happen to know who this dude is, the FBI wants him. And you get yourself a 6-figure payday if you know who this guy is. All right, so moving on to the White House. Illinois Governor J.B. Pritzker last week. We don't need help. We want to show off that there's no emergency happening in Chicago. MSNBC today, in Chicago, 54 people shot over Labor Day weekend, which I believe they revised the number to 58. So we'll check this out.
In Chicago over the weekend, at least 54 people were shot. This is just over Labor Day weekend. 7 killed. Several of the incidents were mass shootings with multiple victims at a single scene. In one instance, a teenage girl was hit with a stray bullet. The violence comes as President Trump threatens to send federal agents and National Guard troops to Chicago to quell the crime there, despite objections from the city's mayor, Brandon Johnson, and Illinois Governor J.B. Pritzker. Unfortunately, Joe, this is not unusual in Chicago, which has been plagued by gun violence for generations, not years, for generations.
54 people shot
MSNBC.
This weekend in Chicago, 7 killed. I mean, and those numbers just keep piling up.
Yep, send in the military. Send them on in. I know you want to say it. Mr. Scarborough. All right, so CBP, through our strong partnership with HSI New York, which is the official account, HSI HQ, and the EDNY News, U.S. Attorney, EDNY, a prolific trafficker of ancient Egyptian artifacts, has been sentenced to 6 months in prison. In January 2020, a traveler arriving from Egypt to JFK Airport falsely declared the value of his goods at only $300. An inspection resulted in the recovery of 590 artifacts and materials used to fabricate documents. CBP is committed to enforcing the law and protecting the priceless heritage of human civilization from exploitation. We stand vigilant in safeguarding history for generations to come. Wow, dude, look at all that. Ancient Egyptian artifacts. I'm assuming those are probably beads, I would think, maybe. But I'm not really sure. And they got those like little miniature like sarcophagus figurines. That's cool, man. I used to be into ancient Egypt, like way back when I was a kid. All right, defense news. Trump is set to announce U.S. Space Command's move to Alabama, reversing a Biden-era decision to keep it at its temporary headquarters in Colorado. So we already went through that. I mean, if you really want to read that, I'll link defensenews.com. U.S. Department of Justice. The Justice Department files complaint, right? Yeah. Department of Justice files complaint challenging Illinois laws providing in-state tuition and scholarships for illegal aliens. Quote, under federal law, schools cannot provide benefits to illegal aliens that they do not provide to U.S. citizens. And that's from AG Pam Bondi. And here's the article from justice.gov. The Justice Department files complaint challenging Illinois laws for illegal aliens and getting scholarships and whatnot. So the U.S. is challenging Illinois laws providing in-state tuition and scholarships for illegal aliens. These laws unconstitutionally discriminate against U.S. citizens who are not afforded the same reduced tuition rates or scholarships in direct conflict with federal law. On Tuesday, September 2nd, the Department of Justice filed a complaint in the Southern District of Illinois against the state of Illinois, Governor Pritzker, the state attorney general, and the boards of trustees of state universities in Illinois, seeking to enjoin the state from enforcing the Illinois laws and bring them into compliance with federal requirements. In the complaint, the United States seeks to enjoin enforcement of Illinois laws that requires colleges and universities to provide in-state tuition rates for all aliens who maintain Illinois residency, regardless of whether those aliens are lawfully present in the United States. Federal law prohibits institutions of higher education from providing benefits to aliens that are not offered to U.S. citizens. The Illinois laws blatantly conflict with federal law and are thus in conflict with the Supremacy Clause of the U.S. Constitution. Quote, under federal law, schools cannot provide benefits to illegal aliens that they do not provide to U.S. citizens, said Attorney General Pamela Bondi. Quote, this Department of Justice has already filed multiple lawsuits to prevent U.S. students from being treated like second-class citizens. Illinois now joins the list of states where we are relentlessly fighting to vindicate federal law. And Illinois has an apparent desire to win a race to the bottom as the country's leading sanctuary state. Its misguided approach mandating in-state tuition, scholarships, and financial aid to illegal aliens plainly violates the law, said U.S. Attorney Stephen D. Weinhoft for the Southern District of Illinois. Quote, this policy treats illegal aliens better than U.S. citizens living in other states and incentivizes even more illegal immigration, all on the taxpayer's dime. Illinois citizens deserve better. And just got a little bit left there, so you want to check that out. That's in the description, justice.gov. And there's an image there quoting AG Pam Bondi, September 2nd, today. From Homeland Security 7 hours ago, thanks to POTUS, Trump's One Big Beautiful Bill, ICE launched a new reimbursement program for state and local law enforcement who partner with DHS to make America safe again. ICE will fully reimburse participating agencies for the annual salary and benefits of each eligible trained 287G officer, including overtime coverage of up to 25% of the officer's annual salary. Law enforcement agencies will be eligible for quarterly monetary performance awards based on the successful location of illegal aliens provided by ICE. So there you go. And we have from the WashingtonExaminer.com, which expands on that, which I'll probably just include in the description. Oh no, they paywalled it. Fucking shit, man. Fucking Washington Examiner. When President Donald Trump said he wanted to make America safe again, he meant it. A new program being implemented by the Department of Homeland Security is just the latest example of the administration's commitment to safeguarding Americans. DHS has taken an innovative approach to enhancing its illegal immigration enforcement efforts. This strategy could revolutionize the efficiency with which criminal illegal aliens are apprehended by law enforcement agencies throughout the country. Through utilizing a section of the Immigration and Nationality Act, known as 287G, DHS announced on Tuesday new reimbursement opportunities for the nation's law enforcement agencies that aid Immigration and Customs Enforcement in arresting criminal illegal immigrants. The program enables state and local law enforcement agencies to sign agreements with ICE to assist with illegal immigration enforcement, including deportations. And then, of course, it trails off from there. Freaking Washington Examiner, damn it. All right, so let's see. Let me just a sec here. All right, so from Senate Republicans 7 hours ago, Senator Chuck Schumer and Senate Democrats are undermining the mandate Americans gave POTUS. They're delaying bipartisan nominees, including 26 nominees who were subsequently confirmed with 60 or more votes. Republicans are going to end the blockade. And from House Democrats, Trump and Republicans' big ugly law is nothing short of a big ugly disaster for American families. Millions of Americans kicked off their health care and millions more kicked off food assistance. Trump and Republicans have no real plan to make life easier for hardworking people. And there you have it. I don't know if there's any action in the comments. I suppose I could read a little bit of both, but lying, this is all Democrats do. Big middle finger. I think it's time for Democrats to be on the Affordable Care Act. Instead of mansions, they can sleep in a barracks, eat military rations. Millions of foreign nationals were kicked off taxpayer-funded health care. We're not your GD ATM. Buy votes with your own money, you absolute dumpster snakes. Obamacare rate, we're about to rise again. Welfare is not a plan. Yeah, of course not. The only thing ugly is your attitude, nasty people. No Republican plan? Really? What's the Democrat plan? Can you write it out in bullet points for me? Thanks. No, they can't. And that's the point. And of course, it goes on and on. And to be fair, I'll check this one out. See if there might be any pushback from the Republican side. This man, Chuck, I know. By Senate Democrats, you mean Thune? He spent the entire month of August blocking recess appointments. No, you don't get off that easy. GOP is far more guilty. Really? Because we just heard him grandstanding in the Senate today, given that 10-minute speech where he didn't offer any solutions, and I had to go search on Grok to try to get the answer to that. So that's interesting. If he's being honest there. So JP Chamberlain, so we keep hearing, but talk is cheap. Talk in Congress is especially cheap, and talk from Republicans in Congress, there's no level of cheap that is lower than that. Ooh. And social democrats are admitted commies who scream death to America and attend Hamas protests and protect criminals who commit crimes in the USA, so on and so forth. And how are you going to end the blockade that you yourselves created? Woo. Don't you have to actually show up and do something other than post on X? Nothing happens until you get to work. Yeah, exactly. Republicans are allowing it. Grow some balls. That's what I say about Republicans. They don't do enough. Why talk about it? Just get it done. Yeah, exactly. Because we don't want to change the rules. We just want to waste time until we eventually have to change the rules anyway. That's basically probably what's happening with that. So, all right. Am I done? I think I'm done. Yeah, we're done. We're done for the day. It was a busy day. I'm going to take all those links. I'm going to put them all down in the description if you want to check those out. And if you enjoyed the video, please like the video and subscribe to the channel. It would really mean a lot to me. And I'll drop a new show every evening during the week covering the swamp and everyone living in it, the politicians, the bureaucrats, agencies, and everything else. And I also post daily episodes over on X, so feel free to comment over there too if you'd like. And thank you very much for watching. Hope you have a great week and enjoy the rest of your night. And God bless America.